Hey, vinyl community, it's Robert Fifth, and you know what YouTube needs? Another video about the Beatles. Here it is, 15 questions about the Beatles. Before I get to that, though, I want to tell you what's coming up, too. I've also redone the track listing for the Beatles drug songs. Now, this is a video that Pop Goes the 60s put together. They've got a series called Albums That Never Were, and they compiled the Beatles drug songs, which is like a take on the Beatles love songs from 1977. They even came up with like cover art and everything. Now, I didn't do any of that, but I did come up with my own track listing for what I think an album called the Beatles drug songs should be, and kept the original track listing number and everything. So that's coming up. We'll get to that after we get to the 25 questions, or I'm sorry, 15 questions about the Beatles. And this comes from the calicosilver channel. Now, I had never seen his channel before. I learned about this thread from Glenn Calloway from the Basement, so I watched his video and then got to know calicosilver channel through that. So you're always finding all these new channels. All right, so question number one, red or blue? Of course, referring to these compilations, I will go with red, just because I think that this makes more sense listening to this as a compilation rather than this one. Obviously, the songs on here are phenomenal, but I think that this sounds more like a great collection of hit singles. This sounds more like album tracks and stuff, and I would rather hear these on the original albums. I'm listening to Abbey Road and the White Album and all those so much that I would just rather hear the original albums. If you're going to get this one, I would suggest the German pressing if you want an original analog one. They sound fantastic. It's all true stereo. Always been a fan of this artwork. Very clever. Never been a fan too much of this, though. I never got this. I mean, this has nothing to do with the Beatles in 1962 to 1966. This has nothing to do with the Beatles in 1967. And they both have the same kind of inner artwork, which is in 1968. Again, it's not a really... I mean, there's such a visual group, with all these great photos over the years. A nice collage or something would have been, excellent. The Beatles themselves approved of this artwork, though, so... But I just always thought that was kind of a missed opportunity. But yeah, I would rather have the red one just because I think that makes more sense as a compilation. US or UK albums? The old argument. Mine is, I grew up, I'm from the US. I grew up here and I grew up with the US Beatles albums. Started listening to the Beatles in 1981 when I was 8 or 9 years old. Started buying their albums, getting them used. They were all the US albums, so that's what I knew. Very nostalgic for me. I would rather have the US covers, the US track listings pre-1966, but the UK sound quality. I think the covers of the Beatles albums in the US represent the sound more. The Beatles in the UK, especially with the Beatles and Beatles for Sale, just look so serious and so solemn. And the backs of them, even with the big articles and stuff, I always thought they'd look so serious, and the US Beatles albums always looked so much more fun. First two albums, Please Please Me or With the Beatles? Well, speaking of American albums, this is the American version of Please Please Me, and this is the German version of With the Beatles, which, like the Red Album, sounds incredible. So yeah, which one of these? I would go with this one, or Please Please Me, or even this one. There's several versions of this. Got to go with the Chicago releases, since, we're in Illinois here. So, yeah, these two would represent Please Please Me or With the Beatles. And, again, Please Please Me. Just a little more upbeat, a few more hits. It's a breakthrough because it's their first album. It means a little more. And With the Beatles is great. I love With the Beatles, but I will explain a little bit later, I guess, why I prefer Please Please Me more, because there's another question coming up that will explain that. The last two albums, Abbey Road or Let It Be? Now, some people are like, I thought Hey Jude was the last album. Let It Be or Abbey Road? Abbey Road. I mean, yeah. I mean, this sounds... It's okay, but I could do without, like, the Dig It and... I don't know. Two of Us is like the weakest album opener, I think. I think there's a question coming up about your favorite album opener. I think the weakest is Two of Us on here. The Dig a Pony's okay. I mean, it's just... I mean, comparing it to this, though. I mean, this is... it's probably my second favorite Beatles album. Sometimes it's my favorite. Sometimes it's my third. But it's... Yeah. You know what? This really kind of lets you listen in and hear how George Martin was really a part of their sound apparently, because you hear what it sounds like when he's missing. Anyway, Abbey Road. Okay. Favorite disc on the White Album? If you had to choose one record only on the White Album, no. Okay, number 6, most underrated Beatles album. I think most people would say, if we're going by UK albums, it would be this one. I mean, I've heard seen some of the other videos, and people will say like With the Beatles or Beatles for Sale is a big one. Glenn Calloway said Sgt. Pepper's the most underrated one. Come on. Beatles Yellow Submarine is like, if you're going to buy all of them new, I think this is the last one people get, just because half of it is George Martin instrumentals, and then half of the other side is songs you probably already have, like Yellow Submarine and All You Need Is Love, in a shorter version here. But altogether now, I would never was a fan of that. But Only a Northern Song, Hey Bulldog, and It's All Too Much are 3 incredible songs, and they really get overlooked because people just don't think about this album. So that's probably the most underrated UK album. The most underrated US album is this. Of all of them, UK and US, I would say is Meet the Beatles. This used to be an incredible, classic, wonderful Beatles album, and then 1980, it was even in the Rolling Stone Top 500, and then 1987 came along, and it was forgotten. It was replaced by the UK versions, and we didn't get this again until, it was in a box set in a little sleeve or whatever, but this has never been given on CD or vinyl reissue the respect it deserves. This is Meet the Beatles. I mean, and if you're an American, wow. And who could argue with this track listing? Now, let me go back to With the Beatles. And this is kind of why I prefer Please Please Me, because I love this album so much. And this, to me, sounds so disjointed. It always did on CD, because it starts off in the middle of, like, side 1. And then it goes on, and Don't Bother Me is in the middle of side 1 here, and it's supposed to start side 2. I love Don't Bother Me as a side opener. And, of course, the whole thing starts with I Want to Hold Your Hand. Which, the whole thing about the UK not putting the hit singles on albums, I never understood that. I love hearing albums where every once in a while a big hit comes on. I mean, that's wonderful. Obviously, this has 2 fewer songs than With the Beatles, but I think Not a Second Time is a great way to close it. I think All My Loving makes a great side closer. I don't think It Won't Be Long, which is how this opens, makes a good album opener. Like I said, it sounds like it belongs in the middle of a side. The songs that are missing are kind of the cover songs, which will show up in the Beatles' second album. But yeah, Meet the Beatles, most underrated album. This is and it sounds incredible, with the exception of the I Want to Hold Your Hand and This Boy are kind of fake stereo. The rest of this, especially side 2, this is an LW pressing. This is a 1978 Purple Capitol. This sounds phenomenal. I don't know. I mean, obviously the Beatles' second album takes a major dive in sound quality, because that's when all that reverb and all that's brought on heavy. But this is a great sounding album. I love the running order. It's what I grew up with. It's Meet the Beatles, and as far as I'm concerned, it deserves a lot more respect than it's been given in the last 20 or so years, especially. Let's see, 30 years. Okay, let's see. Favorite album opener of the UK albums would probably be Back in the USSR. I love Here Comes the Plane. It's just the great effects. I love albums like that, especially double album that opens with some sort of effect like that. But the Beatles always make great album openers. Like I said, 2 of us I don't know about, but yeah, that one, great one. Favorite cover song? Twist and Shout. And they got a lot of great ones. I love Money, That's What I Want. I think it's hysterical to hear John Lennon sing that. But it's a great sounding song too. I love Dizzy Miss Lizzy and all those great cover songs. But I think Twist and Shout, for me, was the very first song from the Beatles I ever heard on a stereo. It was the first song on the first Beatles album I ever owned. So if you can figure out what that is. But I remember I had been exposed to the Beatles a little bit on like a little radio. And then the cartoon. is how I really started hearing their music when the cartoon started coming back on and was rerun. I'm like, wow, this is great. Because the Beatles never showed up on like all the hits of the 60s compilations, and they were never in rummage sales. Nobody ever sold the Beatles. And that's how I used to get, you know, records and tapes when I was a kid. So I heard the Beatles a lot on that cartoon, and Twist and Shout was the first time I ever, you know, I got a Beatles album finally. It was, wow. Put it on my turntable and heard that, and you know, I was 8 years old. And just blown away by how that sounded. The stereo and the drums and just sounded incredible. And been blown away ever since. You know, been hooked ever since. So yeah, Twist and Shout, my favorite Beatles cover song. I think it's kind of an obvious one though. It's like #1 hit and all that. Favorite song no one talks about too much. They've got a lot of those too. I don't know. I Want to Be Your Man. Ringo. People don't talk about Ringo's song too much. That's like one of the most energetic, best little, hot little rockin' numbers. Because the later songs get talked about to death. There's really not a song no one talks about. Cry Baby Cry, that's a great one. But yeah, I Want to Be Your Man, Ringo. Favorite song no one talks about too much. I just pulled that. I didn't even have that one planned. I just pulled that right off the top of my head. Favorite George Harrison song on a Beatles album? He's got a lot too. Probably Savoy Truffle or While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Earlier Beatles, it would be I Need You, or wow, just they're all over the place. Here Comes the Sun, I Want to Tell You. For a long while, I was listening to a lot of George Beatles stuff, and really only George. You know, I mean, you go through phases, and he is, yeah, I don't consider him like the third Beatle or whatever. He's got so many amazing songs. He's got songs I don't care for, but I mean, he's got so many. They all do, but. Yeah, I don't know. Favorite one of all of them? Probably While My Guitar Gently Weeps. You can only have one album. Which one? Probably the one called The Beatles. It's just called The Beatles, I guess, would be the one I would get. If I could only have one. Oh, not the white one, the black one. This one. This is a singular purchase. I mean, this all come together right now over me. So, you know, I would take this one, this album right here. Take that. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, you wouldn't have the anthology or BBC stuff, but you know, you got to make sacrifices when you can only take, you know, one album. Okay, that's the one I would take. Because we're getting silly now. Because it's getting silly, like Sgt. Pepper, or one of the worst Rolling Stones albums ever. Come on. Obviously, so, again, I've done a video about this. This used to be considered not a very good album at all. It's only in the last few years that people started saying this is a classic album or a wonderful thing or whatever. I mean, the Rolling Stones themselves don't even like this. And as you can see, I didn't even bother to get the vinyl or the remastered. This is the CD from 1986. I guess it's got some good songs. She's a Rainbow, of course, and you know, a few others. But, you know, come on. You can't really Sgt. Pepper on that question. And the next question. This is what drew me to this. This was what called me. I know there's already a lot of Beatles stuff online, people giving their opinions. I know I've already done stuff about the Beatles, but when the Pet Sounds or Sgt. Pepper question came up, I knew that it called to me. It was like, you need to make this video. I'm gonna go ahead and go with Sgt. Pepper. But I thank you, so I get to have another video with this Pet Sounds CD in there, because that's. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's sort of become a running joke. I didn't do the condense the White Album down to what's your favorite disc. I don't really do that with the White Album. I don't do the condense it down to one album thing or whatever. I will go ahead and condense this down to a single, though. How about God Only Knows on one side and Wouldn't It Be Nice on the other? There you go. Pet Sounds. You know, the thing about this is even the cover art. I mean, even though this does have a lot of people on it, obviously, that aren't involved in the music. Oh, wait, this one does too. I had to pick those back up just so I could do that joke. Which Beatles book would you recommend to someone who's never read a Beatles book? It depends. If you're more into the Beatles story, like the whole thing, you've got to get that Mark Lewison book, right? And just, well, I guess that's only a third of the story, but I mean, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it all. I mean, this thing gets so in depth, but I prefer coffee table books like this. I don't know how true some of this stuff is, but I would rather read about like their recordings. And this one I like so much because it's called A Hard Day's Write. with a W. And it breaks down each one of their songs. And that's what I like. I like reading about their recording sessions. And this just kind of goes by album. There's Beatles for Sale, and of course you're going to get No Reply, and I Feel Fine, and I Want to Spoil the Party. There's the Help soundtrack, Help, and all these wonderful colors. I like books like this as opposed to, you know, books that are about their girlfriends or Ringo's uncle or, you know, something, whatever. I mean, those books are okay to read as stories once in a while, but I would prefer the reference Beatles books. I just wish I knew which ones were real and which ones were just made up stuff. Which 1970 album do you, Plastic Ono Band, McCartney, All Things Must Pass, Sentimental Journey, or Buku of Blues? I went with, Plastic Ono Band. It was a tight race. It's really a three-way race. I mean, I think the Ringo albums are fine, but they're more fun kind of albums. They're not really, I don't put them in the same kind of category as somebody who's sitting there trying to make a serious statement and whatever. This, yeah, this one. Again, All Things Must Pass and McCartney are both great albums. McCartney has a lot of songs on it that I'm not really into. It's kind of throwaway stuff. There's not a lot of throwaway on this, it seems like, and there's not a lot of throwaway on All Things Must Pass, even though it does have a whole disc of, you can throw, I mean, you throw out that disc and you still have 2 album sets, so there's just so much throwaway on McCartney. Yeah, Plastic Ono Band I would choose, but it would be, again, it'd be a pretty tight race. Oh, I was going to do this too. If you want to do the Rolling Stones versus the Beatles, how about Let It Bleed versus Let It Be? Which one would you choose there? That's a more of a tighter than Sgt. Pepper versus the Rolling Stones parody of Sgt. Pepper. I would choose Let It Bleed, hands down. Like wouldn't even be a contest. Let It Bleed all the way. Okay, let's see. Favorite album by that other band on Apple Records as they were introduced on stage. That had to feel great. Talking about Badfinger. No Dice or Straight Up? There's a size difference. We should even that out. No Dice or Straight Up? Everybody's saying No Dice. It's really, really close, but I would pick Straight Up just because it has Baby Blue, and they're flying, and I don't know. This one has No Matter What, and a version of Without You, but it does have their Love Me Do. That we could do without that. Where is, yeah, Day After Day's on this one. It's this one. It's Straight Up. I would pick Straight Up. Day After Day and Baby Blue. I'd miss No Matter What. I'd miss Without You, but I would pick Straight Up. The real one you want to do is just do The Very Best of Badfinger. There you go. Because, I mean, they're all released right around the same time, so it's not like they're doing, like, hopping over decades or whatever, and it's all disjointed. I mean, this is a pretty good, solid compilation there. Oh, that's the 15. That's it. That's the question. So hopefully you had fun with that. And now we're going to have some more fun. And I'm going to go back to the Pop Goes the 60s video. They did a video of albums that never were. And they took this Beatles Love Songs album from 1977 and came up with the Beatles Drug Songs. Now, obviously, just like they say in the video, the Beatles would never come out with an album called Drug Songs. And I don't think the Beatles were just always on drugs or whatever. It's just kind of a fun take on this album. And I guarantee you, it would sound a lot better than this album. And instead of coming with a big, like, book, like this one comes with, like, a big book and a big poster. It could come with a big, like, a pad of, like, blot paper or a big rolling paper or something like that. I'm going to show the artwork here for the Beatles drug music. And this was done by the people at Pop Goes the 60s channel, which you should check out that video. I am not a graphic designer, so I did not make my own artwork. I'm just using theirs. But I did make my own track listing because I felt theirs was good, but I could improve. And so this is my track listing for an album called The Beatles Drug Songs. This is what my track listing would be. You'd start out the same way they started theirs. Magical Mystery Tour, Side 1. Again, this is a 2-album set with 25 songs. I kept the same, you know, shorter songs in the beginning, 7 songs here, 6, 6, 6. So, okay. Magical Mystery Tours followed by Day Tripper. keeping it kind of poppy to start out with. Dr. Robert after Day Tripper, because, you know, I mean, the doctor, the guy that comes around with the bag of goodies and makes everybody feel okay. Yeah, and his name is Robert. Obviously, that's going to be a part of my Beatles drug songs 2 record set. Okay, Dr. Robert, after that is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, followed by Because. You know, we're getting a little trippy, but we're still staying kind of poppy on side 1. Eleanor Rigby follows that up. Keeping with the kind of the non-percussion kind of violin theme there. And then that's going to go into Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, another one of those Beatles songs. I talk about underrated Beatles songs. That's got to be my favorite Beatles song on Sgt. Pepper. Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. It's gonna end side 1 just like it does on Sgt. Pepper. Side 2 starts off with Strawberry Fields Forever. And of course, whenever you hear that, you know, whatever you're listening to, Penny Lane's going to be next. So it is on here as well. Penny Lane follows Strawberry Fields. And then we go into Flying, the instrumental from Magical Mystery Tour. Just to calm things down a little bit, because then we're going to wake back up briskly with the rooster and Good Morning, Good Morning. Going from that into the song I mentioned earlier from George Harrison, Savoy Truffle. Because if you're singing about a box of chocolates, and the whole song is nothing but, this is a box of chocolate. What's this one taste like? You probably got the munchies. You're sitting there eating a box of chocolates. That's a drug song. Okay, Savoy Truffle goes nicely into Across the Universe. Now, Across the Universe has never ended a side on an official Beatles album, but I think it would make a good side ender, and it ends side 2 of my version of the Beatles drug songs, Across the Universe. And I would do the version from Let It Be. Side 3 opens with I Am the Walrus. If I had my druthers, it would be the longer intro version, like on the German one, or on, that starts side 2 of Real Music. It's got a couple extra notes in there. I love that. I would do that one. Starting side 3 with I Am the Walrus, then going into a song that references the walrus, Glass Onion, right after that. Into Baby You're a Rich Man, so you got that weird kind of ending of Glass Onion going into the song that starts with the kind of the bagpipes thing. Baby, You're a Rich Man, into Octopus's Garden. Unfortunately, it's the only time Ringo shows up on here, but he doesn't have a lot of psychedelic type of songs. Baby, You're a Rich Man, into Octopus's Garden. It was either that or Yellow Submarine. I think Yellow Submarine sounds more like a kids type song. So Octopus's Garden into It's All Too Much, which is a loud, you know, really kind of, we're getting really heavy here, getting a little more deeper into the trip as we go on into side 3. It's All Too Much. Into Tomorrow Never Knows to end the side. A great side ender, ends the entire Revolver album, obviously. So yeah, It's All Too Much into Tomorrow Never Knows. That especially sounded great. I made a playlist of all these, by the way, on YouTube, and then I listened to all of them. And that section right there I really, really liked. Okay, the final side is side 4. You know, side 1 was kind of poppy, I think. Side 2 is a little trippy with the Strawberry Fields, Penny Lane, Flying, Across the Universe. Side 3 is a little more musically involved with the I Am the Walrus, Baby You're a Rich Man, Tomorrow Never, or It's All Too Much and Tomorrow Never Knows. Side 4 is a little more terrifying. It's a little scarier trip. You start off with Blue Jay Way from Magical Mystery Tour, and then into Hey Bulldog, where everybody just starts freaking out and barking, and yeah, it gets wild. Helter Skelter after Hey Bulldog. I told you it was getting intense. Side 4. Helter Skelter goes into Cry Baby Cry. There's only one way to follow Cry Baby Cry, and that's with that little song snippet. And then there's only one way to go after that little, to follow that little song snippet, and that's with Revolution 9. Yeah, side 4, Blue Jay Way, Hey Bulldog, Helter Skelter, Cry Baby Cry, Revolution number 9, and we close out the entire album and side 4 with A Day in the Life. So that would be my 2 record set called The Beatles Drug Songs. Again, you can check out the Pop Goes the 60s, their entire video about this, incredible artwork they put together, and the track listing that they have for their version, which is, of course, the original. They're the ones that came up with the whole concept and everything. So be sure to check out that video. Thank you so much to Calico Silver for the idea and the thread starter. A lot of great videos on this. 15 questions about the Beatles and a follow-up on the Beatles drug songs. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Robert Fithin. Please subscribe if you haven't done that already, and like the video if you like it. If you didn't like it, just kind of move on. Just everybody move on. Again, thank you for